Oh, there you
Hi.
are. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
We're so good. We are so excited to have you. We are beyond ourselves. And
Yay.
we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
No, I'm super excited to be here. I've been seeing, the Mentorship Mondays episodes going, and I'm just like, whoo, it's nice to actually, be on the chats.
No, that's awesome. So we've been, so typically I must say, pleasant surprise. This is the first time ever that on Mentorship Monday, our guest mentor literally gets on before us, like is the first one in. And I think it's such a pleasant surprise. But beyond that, we've been girl crushing a lot over you and over your work. The way Mentorship Mondays work, as you would know, Boipelo, is that we are a community, right? We are a 1,000-strong community. It's a global community now. We've got people dialing in from all over the world. And what we do is we find people like you and we invite you to the platform to try and get you to share some of the things that have made you super successful and impactful in your space.
Yeah.
And what we then also do is we invite everyone to send questions. So I don't get to hog you to myself, unfortunately, with all the questions I have. But I've got 2 pages of questions for you. So lots and lots of stuff has come through. So we're going to try and get through them as best as possible. But suffice to say, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. And we are absolutely cheering you on in everything that you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. And along this journey, it's always good to get this feedback and just really see as well what other people are interested in, and to have these conversations. So yeah, I'm truly honored to be here. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Let's kick it off. Let's kick it off with the one question that everybody gets asked on Mentorship Mondays. I know I'm going to add a new question, guys. I'm going to ask all our guests the same question at the end. You'll see it in the last and towards the end. But our first question to kick it off, Boipelo, if you could describe your expertise, your offering to the world, the value, the gift that you're giving to the world, the thing that positions you as a mentor amongst mentees, what would you say that is?
Sure. Good question and a tough one. But to me, honestly, I would say it's authentic influence. And, those 2 words specifically speak to my personal journey, where I come from, and, just the lessons that I've been able to gain and build from that to really build that authenticity, as well as the influence that I believe my brand carries with the work that I do. And it's enabled me to use my story and build my platforms as well, using, just the tools that are available to me to ensure that the story is told in a way that is authentic and there's impact behind it.
Sure, I love that. And I love the fact that you're so intentional about pausing to think about your journey and actually mining the lessons, harvesting the lessons, and making sure that what has happened is almost molded into a lesson that shapes what's going to happen next. But let's also add to that you are an absolute maverick when it comes to the marketing communication space, when it comes to working with brands, when it comes to helping brands with their digital content strategies, when it comes to corporate brands. And this is a lot to do with why we really wanted to chat to you today. There are a lot of people out there, especially who will send me, they'll see collaborations and they'll say, how do I get to collaborate with brands? What did you do? And I'm like, I'm not the best placed person to respond to that. There are people who are far better qualified, and you certainly are one of those people. So I want to maybe kick off with the questions, because there's so many of them. I want to kick off with a question from Mamelo Nkone. And Mamelo says, why is it so challenging? Why is it so hard to work with corporate brands? She says, I've been sending proposals and proposals and proposals, and I'm not getting any feedback. Or have I just misunderstood it, that brands must approach you instead of me approaching brands? How would you respond to that question of, why is it so hard?
So, Mamelo, if you're listening, I would not say that it's an issue of it being hard, right? It's also just about thinking about presenting the right thing at the right time, being aligned to the brand. So when it comes to pitching particularly, it's very important for people to research the brands that they are trying to work with or that they are trying to talk to. And from a brand's perspective, what I see a lot is a spray and pray approach, where you can clearly see that this pitch is very generic and it's been sent to a number of inboxes. So of course, if I've got 1,000 other things to really think about and be strategic on, that's not something I'm going to consider. So it's very, very important that when you are crafting a pitch to a brand, that you've really done your homework. And the first place to start really is researching to understand, what does this brand value, right? What is it that they are saying to the market? And a good place to start is on social media. Look at their posts, look at the stuff that they're talking about, look at how they position their content, look at the previous partnerships that they've had, and really think about how you can bring more value, or rather differentiate yourself in a way that still aligns with that brand value and what they're trying to communicate into the markets, right? And I've got a few things as well that can really help people who are pitching, especially if you are going to approach a big corporate, right? Because the first thing is, who do you even talk to? Where do you even start, right? And LinkedIn is a great place because that's where you get to see people's different roles and different organizations, but it really is going to start with you understanding the brand and what you're trying to say. And then from there, when you've done your homework of understanding what these values are, understanding how the brand is positioning itself in the market, because that exercise will actually help determine if you are even the right person for the brand. So it's really nothing personal, but also having the maturity to say, does this brand align to mine as well, right? Why are you approaching that brand in the first place? Are you also just doing another spray and pray where you're hoping for the best, you know, securing the bag, as the kids love to say? But, you know, we can't always be led by securing the bag when it comes to decisions like that, because you have to be strategic. And that's what's actually going to make you stand out, you know, even as a personal brand trying to partner with these different multiple corporate brands. And another thing really is, how are you positioning yourself? So cool, once you get the eyes and the ears of the right people within this corporate, what do they see? One of the things that we do before working with someone is an audit, right? We actually go and check you out, check the work that you've done, check any, you know, issues that might potentially arise, especially when it comes to our reputation, right? Because we are big on our reputations as big brands. And I think the important thing is that people tend to forget that last week you were in a Twitter war with someone saying some really horrible things, and then today you want to partner with this brand. We are living in a cancel culture, you know, time where as brands, you are held accountable for the people that you work with and partner with. So it's also very important for people to not forget that. You know, remember why you're doing what you're doing. So what you've posted, what you've engaged in, and really what it is that you are bringing to the brand, that's very important. So reflect on yourself and the stuff that you've been doing to say, is this thing and this content aligning to what this brand stands for? And you know, going back to that research and just doing your homework, once you actually have that, you'll understand and know how to position yourself.
Sure. Boipelo, you've given us so much in that one response, and I'm seeing a lot of resonance in terms of just the chat, in terms of people reacting to that. And I just want to lift one of the things that I think, to me, you know, has really touched me. You talk about an audit, and oftentimes people will push back when I'm talking about personal branding and the importance of consistency across all your platforms, that you can't give me one version of yourself on LinkedIn, and then you give me another version of yourself in your stories, another version of yourself on your grid on Instagram. Maybe just a little bit more around, you know, when you're doing that audit, how important is consistency for you, that you're having the experience of the same person in different contexts, and it feels authentic, and it feels genuine, and it feels like this is actually their personal brand.
So that's a very good question. And it's actually something that a lot of senior leaders also grapple with. How do I balance the different parts of me with this, personal brand that I'm building, this title that I have in this organization, all the other passion projects that I have? How do I create that golden thread? And once again, this goes back to your values. So, and I'll use myself as an example, right? I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm very active on Instagram. The content that you will see, yes, might slightly differ because of the nature of the platforms, but you will still get the same me. And the thing that underpins all of that is my values. I ask the same questions every time before I post something. So for me, it's about influence, it's about education, and it's about inspiration. So before I put something out, I ask myself those 3 questions. Is it going to educate someone? Is it going to inspire someone? And, is this something that represents who I am as a person? So I think for me, people tend to miss that and think, no, on Twitter, I can be well because that's what the platform dictates. No, it's you who dictates what happens on the platform based on the brand and the person that you are and what you're trying to build. So for me, it's really taking it back to values, because different platforms are going to come. Tomorrow, we might have another type of platform that requires a different type of content. But the thing that's going to be a golden thread in all of that is what you value and what you stand for as a brand, and being able to maintain that across the different platforms, even if the format of the content is different.
And so I take that and I play it back to our community, and I say, guys, what are your 3 questions? What are the 3 things that you're asking yourself? If Boipelo is asking herself her 3 questions, is it educational and so on and so forth? What are your 3? And how do you use those 3 as a guide to stay consistent and to ensure that you are showing up in a consistent way? So let me pick up the question from Ayanda. Ayanda says, Boipelo, when it comes to collaborating with brands, are they looking for the latest trends, or maybe the influencer with the highest following? Or are they really looking for something that fits their vision and mission? So what are you looking for, Boipelo? Are you looking for numbers, 2.1 million followers? Or are you really looking for something that aligns with your vision, your mission, and your values as a corporate brand?
Cool. So the first thing we're looking for is value. Whether that comes through the form of number of followers, engagement, it really all boils down to the purpose of the campaign or the purpose of the partnership, right? And a big thing that I would encourage people listening to really focus on is, what is your value? What are you bringing to the table? It's very important to actually understand, even from a metrics point of view, what is that? What does that look like? Is it the number of followers? Is it, the number of engagements or comments that you get? But if you're going to want to position yourself, especially from a digital perspective, you need to understand these things and understand, the conversations as well, because now you're going to be brought into these conversations to say, you might not necessarily have 1.2 million followers, which is fine. That's not what we're looking for all the time. What we're looking for is real value and their engagement, and really to align it to what the values of that campaign is. And more often than not now, we're really looking for collaboration. So gone are the days of a brand having a brief and just giving it out and rolling it out with different influencers or different figures. We are actually looking for your voice in the brief. We are looking for your voice in the content that gets created. And there's actually more increased use of content creators versus influencers now, where it's really not about how famous you are or how many followers you have, but it's really more on the type of content that you're creating, the quality, and really how much it resonates with the audiences that we're talking to. And hence, platforms like TikTok are doing so well, because it's the authenticity in the way that, the messages are landed.
I love that. And you remind me, of course, of this concept of nano influencers that I recently learned. So I was saying to a friend of mine, I don't have a lot of followers. Well, relative to other people, I don't think I have a lot of followers. But sometimes when I look at the people who follow me and who they are and the kind of influence they have and the kind of access and, that then it's a whole different story. And so it's really interesting to hear you talk about beyond just the numbers, looking at the engagement, looking at the influence, looking at, a range of different things. And so that's really, really interesting to say, guys, it's more than 1.2 million followers. So let's keep that in mind. And of course, if you've got questions now, please pop them into the chat. We still want to chat to you. Okay, so let me call to Jonna Smith. Jonna sent us a question, and Jonna says, Boipelo, we hear a lot about storytelling in marketing, right? When it comes, however, to attracting collaborations with corporate brands, how can we really use storytelling to establish a meaningful connection? And do you have evidence that captivating storytelling really leads to successful partnerships with brands? So simply put, does storytelling work? And how do you leverage storytelling not only to attract a brand, but also, of course, to sustain your partnership with the brand?
Yeah. So storytelling is probably one of the most powerful marketing tools, especially in my world of content, right? Landing any kind of content, landing any kind of message is 10 times more powerful with a story. And really, a story is the heart of what you're saying. It's actually the authenticity of, what's being told. And when you are talking about how do I tell my story, because literally every post that you have, every action that you take is part of your storytelling. And what you need to think about is what that narrative looks like when it's all put together. When I slide through your timeline, Nosy, I can tell your story. I can see exactly, your journey. I can see the things that you're interested in. I can tell the things that, drive you, that inspire you. And that's what storytelling ultimately is. I think as well, we tend to want to box it to, cool, you kind of have to have a beginning and an end of a story and then, be able to share it in one go. But no, a story is a narrative, and even brands right now uphold their values through storytelling. Almost every campaign has a storytelling element, and it's really a great tool to connect with people, because all of us here have stories. If we had to sit around a fire, or everybody join this live and start sharing, everybody has a story. And it's really about to say, cool, with your own personal brand, what is that story that you want to carry? What is that message and the narrative that you want to build around your personal brand, which goes back again to the values that we spoke about, right? So it's all those elements that then come together to create and build the story that you get remembered for.
So maybe just as a quick follow-up, I mean, I love the idea of storytelling, and I just want a little bit of clarity for our community on this. We oftentimes want to tell stories, but we feel that there's a need to tell the personal story somewhere else, tell the professional story somewhere else. And it's really hard sometimes to find the balance of what do you really share as part of your story, and how much of the personal do you share, or do you go fully into personal, and that's the most authentic reflection of who you are, or do you, project more of a professional sort of posture, and that is a way of storytelling. What are you looking for when you're looking for people's stories? Are you looking for the personal story of Nosy actually at home with her family and what she's doing? Or are you looking for the story of Nosy out in the world, moderating, engaging, being on stages? Where do you look when you're looking for an authentic story?
Yeah. So Nosy, both of those elements that you've mentioned can both be authentic, right? Authenticity is not rooted necessarily in your most personal, deepest, darkest experiences. It's really more about finding firstly, TMI is a big thing. So TMI is too much information. You never want to find yourself in that, because then it can get out of hand. It can, overwhelm you as a person as well. I think if we can honestly be speaking, and there are some parts of us that, we want to remain private. So the big thing I want to highlight here is that, it's a balance between transparency and privacy. There certainly are things that I believe still should remain, private, but you can be transparent about certain experiences. For example, back in the day when I was doing my South Africa journey, a big part of, being on that platform, I wanted to share my story, but I had to be thoughtful about what about my story do I want to share, because it exposed a lot of my family, and people who were not making the decision to be as out there as I was. So it was a matter of also understanding the boundaries, right? What personal boundaries do I want to create with the public that I am engaging with? And, how far do I want to take it? And to what end am I sharing this for, right? So once you've understood that, then I think it actually helps you to then make the decision as to, cool, am I going to share about this part of my life, or am I going to talk about, more of this? So it's really a balance between transparency and privacy. Be very clear about the things that you want to keep private. And naturally, the community will also respect that, right? We tend to talk about Beyonce a lot and say, Beyonce gives us exactly what she wants to give us, right? You don't necessarily get to see her in her private space, but you'll definitely get to see how much she killed that performance. And that still works for her personal brand, right? Because she's been very clear and has, educated us as well as, the audiences as to what we should look for when we're looking at her page. I would not go to a Beyonce page to find out what she eats in a day, right? But you can probably find that with another celebrity, probably, similar level. So it's really about a personal decision to say what remains private for me, what am I willing to be transparent about, and then maintain the consistency. I think that's the key part here, to say maintain the consistency. Don't show up now tomorrow as, cool, I am all into music and that's my thing, and then the next thing you're bashing music and fighting with musicians, just as an example, right? There has to be a balance and a truthness to then that transparency that you are giving us.
I love that. Transparency versus and privacy as two concepts to think about. Pierre House, I'm going to read your pinned comment in a moment, but I'm circling back to something that you said that I'm just testing this question out even as I'm asking it. I think a lot of people look at some corporate brands and they aspire towards those brands. So there's an aspirational attraction. So I want to be associated with Verve, or I want to be associated with Mercedes-Benz, and so on and so forth. And the motivation behind you being attracted to the brand is, one, to secure the bag, but two, because you yourself want that association. I mean, to what extent do you think we are thinking about, you spoke about the importance of checking whether a brand aligns with you. To what extent, are we thinking about how does the brand match me, my present state, my own values, where I am in my own life cycle, versus, oh, that's an aspirational brand. I'd love to be associated with that brand because it's an elevation to me. And is that helpful to then have you and an aspirational brand that you're trying to be associated with? It's like, I don't know, it's like me trying to have an association with Maserati. I don't know. Like it's a little bit aspirational, Nosy. I can't afford a Maserati even if I wanted to right now. So I'm just keen to say, how do you peg yourself at the right level is the question I'm asking.
No, that's a brilliant question, and I think one we are seeing a lot of people grapple with as well. And before you even start thinking about the brand that you are going for, where are you? Where do you peg yourself, right? And realistically, I think this is the point where one needs to have an honest conversation to say, cool, when I look at this brand's value, this brand's street cred, do I match up to this? And do I have the basis and the ground to speak to this brand, right? I mean, I love your example with the Maserati, to say, cool, if I'm sitting here and I'm saying, cool, I want to partner with Maserati, what does that look like? If you look at your last few posts, how do you then match that against this partnership, right? It's not even to say you're not good enough for this brand, but it could be a possible misalignment that then actually erodes your brand and the authenticity of your brand, right? And we see it a lot with, you know, influencers working with this certain brand, and then there's still questions around how, when just yesterday you were, you know, telling us authentically and transparently, you know, how a challenge with one issue, but now all of a sudden you're working with a brand that completely goes against, you know, this element that you're now talking about. And, you know, I'll use an alcohol brand, for example, right? Where one person the day before is preaching and speaking about sobriety and how they've been on this journey. Then a couple of weeks later, they've partnered with an alcohol brand. So it's like, okay, make it make sense, right? Because it's not just even about a brand that's out of reach, but it's just really alignment of values, alignment of how the two brands are speaking to each other. And really, if you've put thought into what then you are also bringing to the brand, because it has to be a value relationship, right? Especially if you've identified the value in the brand, you need to be able to articulate what value you are bringing to it.
Yeah, I love that. Zama Kanile, thank you for your engagement. You've been so amazing. And she was just saying here, just remember that the brand also needs to be clear about what is it that they want from you. But guys, Nozi and the Maserati collaboration is going to happen. Just give me a few years. Just give me a few years to make some dollars. and then we'll take it from there. I want to read up this comment from Peer House saying, sometimes it's really hard to find the right market. How do we achieve customer discovery when you're a startup? How do you measure if potential customers are likely to buy a product? So I think that's more of a product launching into a new market question. So maybe we'll park that one. I hadn't seen that question as it was coming up. Let's first prioritize all the questions that are on theme. There is a question from Naledi Munametsi, and Naledi is saying, so Naledi is asking for the scoop and is basically saying, Boipelo, please send us and share with us any strategies, tips, hacks, creative approaches to get the attention of a corporate brand. So what do I do? So if I want to get Maserati's attention, you know, do I keep, what must I do for them to go, oh, okay, that's interesting. There's this person called Nozipo. What is she busy doing? What are your hacks? What are your tips that you would give just to get their attention? Never mind securing the bag, but then just for people like you to start looking.
Yeah. So firstly, you need to understand the conversations that Maserati is having, right? So you can't tell me that you want to work with a brand and not even tell me what their brand values are, right? So that's a key starting point to say, cool, you want them to notice you. What are you doing that's important to them? And I'll give you an example of, you know, a very authentic thing that happened on social that led into a bigger campaign. And this is the recent KFC ad that features Trevor Noah. So he started a conversation about chicken on Twitter. And KFC noticed the conversation. He was asking, you know, why can't people just have chicken for breakfast? You know, that used to be a thing. So the key highlight here being chicken and starting this whole conversation. And of course, KFC, they serve chicken. So that actually piqued the interest of the brand, and that whole conversation ended up being a commercial right now, and it's actually doing very well. And the campaign is actually called, you know, Chicken for Breakfast. So again, it's, are you engaging in things that the brand cares about? Are you positioning yourself and your content in a way that will actually get them to be interested in you as well, right? So it's really going back to the basics to say the brand values, the engagement, the conversations, you know, who are they partnering with currently? Look at what they are doing. You know, these are just some very low hanging fruit you can start with to begin with. And if you can even reach out to some of the people that partnered with the brands that you are going for, you know, try to have conversations with them to really get a sense of, actually, is what I'm going for really a good thing as well? Because, you know, you might get other insights that may not necessarily interest you anymore. But it's really, again, doing your ground homework to say brand alignment, value alignment, and then just the engagement that you can get online up until reaching the brand to say, cool, look, here's evidence that I am, you know, the woman for the job or the man for the job. And this is the evidence that I'm putting forward.
So let me be unfair, because Trevor Noah is Trevor Noah, right? So he's, you know, it's really easy that they're going to, if Trevor Noah says something about chicken, you know, it would be silly for them to be sleeping on it. But I mean, I've seen certain things where everybody's doing a skincare routine using certain products. And I'm talking about just stuff that I see on TikTok, right? Everybody's doing a skincare routine. Hey, we've never been so fascinated by how people wash their faces as we are right now. But everybody's doing a skincare routine. Is that a strategy? Use the product, visibly talk about the product even before you have the collaboration to get the brand to notice you. Because I would imagine that I'm making the assumption that everybody that I'm seeing with the skincare routine doesn't actually have a brand collaboration, but they're kind of hoping that out of the skincare routine, maybe there'll be a brand collaboration that would come up.
Yeah. So that's funny. But again, it goes back to yes, it might be a skincare brand and it's the natural thing and obvious thing to use their skincare products in a video, but is that the thing that is really real for them at that point in time? Right? Because what you'll find is the brand is actually talking more about women empowerment and education, right? But people have not done that homework to actually understand and stand out even in how they position that skincare routine. So an example for me could be, fine, I go and do my homework and find out that this particular skincare brand is actually very big on education. So then maybe my piece of content is not me busy doing the skincare routine, but going to a place of education with young children and teaching them about skincare, and that becomes a thing. So that is something that will actually grab the attention of you know, the brand that you're trying to work for. But it comes from being thoughtful. It comes from being understanding really deeply of what this brand cares about over and above the actual product, right? Because I think right now we are all quite a woke audience. We are woke consumers. We ask questions, we interrogate. So you using the skincare product and telling me that it works, I'm not going to buy it, right? But I will buy into a story. I will buy into a movement. I will buy into, you know, seeing the impact of me engaging or using a certain product over and above, you know, what it can do. But we need to really integrate and get deep into understanding how these brands work and really what's important to them.
Yeah, I really love that example because it really reframes how we're thinking about this. So instead of just getting onto TikTok and pushing product and doing a skincare routine and showing us that this is the product you're using, actually understanding what the brand values, what the brand puts as important, and then going out and saying, well, that is an authentic expression of me anyway. So I am actually going to go out and I'm going to do this. And probably the brand sits up and go, oh, okay, we're seeing something quite different here. And I think that's really, really incredible input. So there's a question from Faith Gomete, and Faith says, okay, beyond digital platforms, what other ways, avenues or strategies can we use to attract collaborations and to attract brands? Are there any offline or traditional marketing techniques that still hold value when we're thinking about these partnerships? Or is it all just about short piece content and you know, digital platforms only?
Yeah. So I would say, because I'm more in the digital space, right?
Yeah.
Digital is definitely a powerful place to start something. But then there is a big opportunity between the online to offline world. I'll take Mentorship Mondays, for example, right? It's a movement, it's a community that started online. If you wake up tomorrow and decide, hey, we want to make this into a conference, a face-to-face conference, then that's an easy thing to sell to a brand, right? Because now you've created this online community, you've got an audience, and now the traditional way would be, cool, let's actually turn this into a face-to-face conference with speakers. And once you present that to a brand, that is something worth thinking about and worth collaborating on, because you've already done the work, right? There's already social capital which you've created online. So it's very difficult for me to vouch for the traditional tools and ways marketing without the online world, because you know it's such a big integration now, and if you don't see it online, it didn't happen. So
I think we've got to quote you on that one. If you don't see it online, it didn't happen. I mean, I absolutely love that. And of course, I'm going to use the opportunity to plug the fact that we have a collaboration with TEDx, our offline conversation, our conference, our Mentorship Monday conference, 31st of July. If you're in Durban, please make sure you get your tickets. We're over halfway sold, so the tickets are running out. So thank you for that. Nice opportunity to plug. And then, of course, there's certain people coming on right now asking some of the questions you've already answered. My craft, for example, my suggestion, remember, we save these on YouTube. Just go to my page. It will be up in 24 hours, and you can rewatch. In fact, it was the first question that Boipelo answered that you have been asking about. So I think you're going to find that. Okay, cool. So, Selo Mulukome has sent us a question saying, in this age of social media, personal branding is closely tied to your online presence. I think we've kind of touched on this, but Selo is saying, what are your go-to strategies? I think we've touched on this, so I'm going to move on from that. And then
maybe, sorry, Rosie, maybe if there's just one thing I can add to that is, because I think that's a big thing a lot of people struggle with, right? Just that balance between your professional brand and your personal brand. But a key tip there would be to find synergies between what you do and you know, outside of your work. Find the synergies and then capitalize on those, right? I'm a marketer by profession, and it's something that I do on my social media as well, just, you know, with my personal brand. It's how I position myself as well. These are the events that I do as well in my personal capacity, as an example. So it's very good to find the synergies between those two worlds and capitalize on where it all comes together.
I love that, looking and finding synergies. Kolile sent us a question, but I'm going to ask the question anyway, but I also feel like we've kind of spoken to this one. Kolile was saying personal branding can sometimes feel like a balancing act between authenticity and professionalism. How do you infuse your personal brand with your unique personality while maintaining a polished and professional image? The part about the question that I want to ask anyway, Boipelo, is she says at the end, Boipelo, do you have any funny or unexpected experiences that you can share with us? Now, I love these questions because now we're saying we want a real story of you balancing the personal, balancing the professional in your own journey. Anything that was funny that happened to you or that was unexpected that you can share with us?
Yeah. So I don't know if this will have the humor factor, but it's when I was transitioning from the media industry, and it was shortly after I had done the pageant and now into corporate. So when I started in corporate, then I was known as the pageant girl, the beauty queen. And it was so weird because it's like everybody just wanted to see me. So I would get like very random meeting requests of like people from completely unrelated departments, unrelated work that I'd be doing, just because they wanted to see me and kind of be sure that, are you really here? And are you really that girl? You know, so it was very, very weird in the beginning because like there was a sense of, okay, cool, you've got a little fan base, but at the same time, you've got like, you know, side eyes, people not sure if you're really for this space and if you can really do this. So yeah, I think that was a quite an interesting time of my career where, you know, something that I had done, which outside of this corporate space, you know, being something that I was passionate about, kind of filtered into my corporate life where it was a thing. And, you know, just trying to balance that as well in a day-to-day, and eventually, I guess, reestablishing my brand within the space that I had to do and really work on. But yeah, it was hilarious at first.
So I love that. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to share my own story as well just now. But Peer House, whoever you're wanting to sponsor, we're here. We all need sponsors. If you wanted to sponsor our TEDx event, please reach out. We are taking on more sponsors as we're going on. But I must say, you know, my personal story, Boipelo, is that I've just decided that I'm going to ask a very hard question. Simple, question of everybody who approaches me to collaborate, what's in it for me? And oftentimes, you know, I'll give an example. Oftentimes people will approach me and say, you know, I want to just pin Zama's comment. They'll oftentimes approach me and say, oh, Nozi, we want to collaborate with you. We want you to wear our cap on Mentorship Mondays, and we'd love for you to talk about our brand. And then I ask the question, okay, what's in it for me? And automatically people get flat-footed, almost as if there's no expectation that I would ask that question. And the response oftentimes, oh no, we'll give you a free cap. No. I didn't say I don't have caps. You cannot come to me and say, you know, it's a clear indication you haven't thought about my brand. You haven't thought about what I'm building, what I'm communicating into the market, and how you can add value to that journey, and how we can meet each other halfway. And I think it's a question we all need to get used to, not only to ask of ourselves, but to remember that every corporate is also asking the question, what's in it for me? Why should I collaborate with you? Why should I be in partnership with you?
Yeah. No, you've hit the nail right in the head, Nozi. And, you know, it's a two-way relationship. It's a two-way thing. And I think this is particularly for those small businesses, you know, because I also get similar requests every other week. And, you know, when you start throwing in those questions as if you've said something wrong, or like, no, you should be doing this. And it's like, no, the very same way you as a personal brand would want to work with a bigger brand that does certain things, you know the value that you're getting. So provide the same value even as a small business. And actually, you are in a better position to have more meaningful partnerships because you're more agile, you know, there's more room to actually build meaningful collaboration. So it is quite disappointing when, you know, things like that do happen, but it's like you still also have to do your homework. You can't just come and say, yeah, wear this, give me this for a post. No, that's not good.
Absolutely. Zama is saying, how important must one consider their mental health? Because what I see with some influencers is that they are getting overwhelmed. And that they do get overwhelmed. So I would imagine, Boipelo, trying to be all things to everyone around you can be really, really tough. And I can imagine that that's going to wear down anyone. Do you have any comments on that? Like, how do you protect your own well-being, even as you seek to attract the brand, have the collaboration, secure the bag, and everything else in the process?
It's really a combination of, you know, a lot of the things that we've spoken about. So firstly, knowing what you stand for, right? Because that helps you with your decision making and what you entertain and what you don't. Most of the time, influencers that do get overwhelmed is because they want to grab all the opportunities that they can get. They are competing with the next influencer. They want to be on top of everyone. They just go. You know, they want to be at every event, and it's like, it's not sustainable. You know, even for someone who probably does that full time, you still have to be thoughtful about what you accept, what you don't. It's okay to say no. It's okay to let certain things go. But the only way you're going to know that is when you understand what you stand for as a brand, right? And I think that's where we tend to also see the schizophrenia in the way that people collaborate, you know, and the brands that they work with. So it's really kind of going back to root yourself to say, this is what I stand for. This is what I will go for. And again, also, this is what I can do, what I'm capable to do in this time. Maybe it's even a matter of, you know, almost segmenting your time, segmenting your year to say, you know, this is the time that I'm going to take this many campaigns to work on, or, you know, whatever the case is. And I know that in those conversations, you know, people will always say, but the bag. But, you know, it's not always about the bag, because now you are letting your mental well-being suffer for the bag, and that's also just not sustainable.
So I have a question about the bag, right? It's a question about, one, how do you negotiate for what you believe is your true value, and how do you make sure that you don't get paid in kind? I mean, we oftentimes hear about celebrities being paid in clothes. Let me not call celebrities, let me say influencers are being paid in clothes, or being, you know, but you're not actually getting paid in rands and cents. You know, maybe there's a two parts to this question, Boipelo. So the one is, how do you make sure that you're getting paid? number one. And then number two, how do you negotiate for value that you think that is really reflective of what you're also offering in the partnership?
Cool. So the first thing I'm going to say there is the importance of relationship building and long-term relationship building, right? And the reason I say that is because when you are at that point of getting together with a brand, you need to think about already a more long-term relationship with the brand, right? Don't just think about that one campaign, but in those initial conversations, initiate the cool, what would the next big event look like, and start seeding in those ideas, because like I'm saying, brands are looking more for collaboration than just once off type of engagements right now. So once you've positioned yourself as someone who's there to stay, then the money conversation becomes even easier and better, because now you've invested yourself in moving and growing with the brand, right? So that's tip number one, to say, once a brand shows interest in you, show them that you are in the relationship for the long haul. And then when it comes to the money as well, be very realistic about where you are at. Of course, I think we also do have the idea that brands will always try and go for the lowest amount of money. And I think in business, generally, that's just can be the situation. But I think we, as personal brands and people wanting to work with brands, it's very, very important to be real about your own value, right? Don't underestimate, don't overestimate. I've been in situations where we've actually let go of working with a person because the figures changed overnight very quickly from one amount, and then the next time they were like, no, we want to triple this amount. And in business, that's not okay, right? So it's also just about knowing how to negotiate. Negotiation doesn't mean tripling the amount overnight, but it speaks to those elements that I'm mentioning, that think about the long-term relationship, think about also what's value to you, and how you can also articulate that value to justify what you say you want, right? Because I think most of the time people go into those conversations with it just, oh no, I have 50 million followers. And it's like, okay, and what value are you actually showing to justify that figure, to negotiate well? Because a negotiation is, you're showing me your value and why I need to pay more for it, right? So if you can't answer that for yourself, then how do you expect someone else to be convinced enough to go the extra mile?
Absolutely love it. Can you believe I run through all the questions?
Oh wow.
And we've done such a really good job. So maybe just as a final question, and then I'll use the last 5 minutes to share two pieces of news with you guys. One, I want to tell you about our next upcoming 3 Mentorship Monday guests. You're gonna love it. And two, I want to talk to you about 40 under 40. So that's also going to be some interesting insight. But first and foremost, before Boipelo leaves us, Boipelo, if you were then to say, okay, guys, my parting words for all of you working tirelessly to attract the attention of brands, to build long-term relationships, to offer value, to receive value, what is the one piece of advice that I'm going to give you to say, if nothing else, I really hope that this is what you are going to be taking away from this conversation?
Yeah, so for me, that one big thing would be, do some self-work and establish your brand, right? A lot of people think that brands are people with many followers, and I mean, actually it reminds me of the question that we addressed, where the person was talking about their personal brand, their personality, and professional. And it's like, no, all of those things are you. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So if it's that person that talks a lot, if it's that lady from down the road, or that's her personal brand. That's what people know you for. And you need to be very clear and really honest with yourself to say, what is my current brand? What do people actually know me for? What scent am I leaving in the room when I leave, right? And ask for feedback. ask for feedback as a starting point for you to understand what your brand is, and then start being intentional about, you know, the brand that you want to build. Write the words down. And feedback does not need to come from, I don't know, you know, a brand coach. It can come from your mom. It can come from your sister. It can come from, you know, your colleagues at work. Just ask them. Maybe send out a broadcast message tonight to everyone in your circle to say, if you had to describe my brand or describe me, what would you say? And then pick up on the common answers that you're getting. That is probably what your current brand is. And then sit with that to say, does this make me happy? Is this where I want to be? Who do I want to be? Establish that and start intentionally building it.
Sure,
With all the lovely
that.
tips we shared.
Final question. I promised I was going to ask this question of everyone from here on. Have you ever had a mentor who has been life destiny defining in your life? And maybe can you share with us what was that mentorship moment that has been so important in getting you to where you are today?
Sure. Yeah, so for me, it's been a combination of, you know, different mentor relationships, which is, you know, another key element, that having different people that speak into different areas of your life. But the one that I will never forget is one where the person said, in life, you always have a choice. So I think I was talking about something and I was so upset and I was like, I really don't have a choice anymore. I just have to go with this. And they stopped me right there to say, nope, never ever say that. You always have a choice. Even when you think it's difficult, even in that moment where you feel like your hands are tied, you have a choice to do nothing, to do something, to, you know, let things happen to you, to take a small step into doing something. So for me, that would be my parting words, to say, remember that in every situation you have a choice. You just have to think creatively about what you do next if you really feel like, yeah, the walls are closing in on you. But just remember that, and that is your power in every situation.
Oh, we love that. And in life, you always have a choice. Boipelo, thank you so much. I'm not going to keep you any longer, but you're welcome to stay on and listen to our good news. I'm only going to be 30 seconds. So here, the good news is that, of course, we're going, as you guys know, we have a great partnership that we've secured with TEDx, TEDx Durban in particular, and we're taking Mentorship Mondays to Durban on the 31st of July. I've already told you that if you don't have a ticket, you better get one quickly. Tickets are $350. The good news is that all of our speakers who are going to be at TEDx for the next 3 weeks, one by one, are going to be on Mentorship Monday. So you can watch them here. And no, we're not going to be discussing the same things that we're going to be discussing at the live conference, because what would be the point? But we do want you to really enjoy them so that you're not missing out at all if you're not coming to Durban. So we're looking forward to Mbali Ntuli. We're looking forward to Chebet Chikumbu from Global Citizen, and of course Debuko Mlaus, who's the national spokesperson of Rise Mzansi. If you're following politics right now, you would be on the money if you know who those guys are. So the only person that we're not bringing on is Rorisang Shabalala, because I think he's stealing my shine. You guys like him too much. He can stay home. You can see him in Durban. And then last piece of news. So yours truly has been nominated for 40 Under 40. Really exciting. So now you guys need to vote, apparently. So please, apparently the number is 36445. It's going to cost you $5. And you need to vote, and you need to send my surname to 36445. Guys, my surname is not Shabalala. My surname is Mbanjwa Shabalala. It's a double barrel. There we have it. It's out in the open now. But imagine if we bagged this for Mentorship Monday. You guys are my community, and if I get it, it's because of you. So with that, Boipelo, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And then to all of you guys, let's go fetch the 40 Under 40 award, 36445. And you SMS Mbanjwa Shabalala. We're going to put it on the stories so that you can see it as well. Until then, ciao.
Awesome.
Goodbye.
Ciao. Goodbye.
Bye.